Hey crew, it's another week on
Creating You in the Universe
Woot Woot
with Leah
and Sandra. I'm Leah.
and
If
Sandra.
you're listening. Excuse me.
So I'm going to start off today is intention first thing before I lose it. I've got a good one. So I send this out to anyone coming across this past, present, or future to have a strong voice. Be the voice that you want to see in the world. So use your power, have your power, speak your truth, and say what you got to say. Easily, effortlessly. Be blessed as always.
Be blessed. This week, our episode is inspired. Sandra's coming in hot this week with this inspiration. And it's the misconception of spiritual people. That's what we're titling it.
Yes, misconception of spiritual people. Take one.
Now, if you see spiritual people, you might be like, you might not. Hey, you can't swear. You're spiritual and all the things that spiritual people do, that's not in alignment with being spiritual. That's one example I can think of.
This comes from something that was really bothering me. I think I've said in our previous episode, 2024, I believe, is a year of just speaking your truth coming out, being yourself, being bold, being brave. And a little while ago, let's say during a very traumatic 3 years of life, we'll just say that, there was a time that somebody said something and I blasted them, like beyond. And a good friend of mine, you know who you are, wrote me privately and said, I'm kind of taken aback by your response to that person, and I don't feel that's very spiritual of you. Like, that's like, I'm kind of like seeing you in a different light and things. And it bothered me because she was right in a sense that I attacked the person. There was obviously high nerves going on whatever your beliefs were. It was high.
It was emotional
anxiety,
charged.
emotionally charged. But I don't regret what I said. I did apologize to the person, saying, you caught me on a bad day. I apologize how I came across. But I actually didn't apologize for what I said. And I find more and more as the years passed on, I'm finding my truth and my voice, and I'm standing strong in my beliefs more than I ever have before. And I've been seeing a lot of little memes and a lot of messages and things like that about this preconception or misconception of what spirituality is, and being a spiritual person. And for some reason in the planet, people seem to think that spiritual people, like Leah says, don't swear. They're very like hippie, or very go with the flow, very soft and gentle. And I have a question for you. Have you ever talked to Source? Have you met Source? Source? The universe?
God?
I don't want to say God in that form because people might get lit up by this.
Well, if you're specific,
right.
To recognize
a prick,
yourself.
A bitch, an asshole. Source is an entity that will literally hit you upside the head with a 2x4. And even sometimes I'm speaking actual 2x4. Things dropping on your head, things dropping on your toes, catching your loop of your pants and ripping your pants on cupboard doors to slow you down. Burning your house down because you want a new house and you can't figure out how to leave that house and have that house. So your house burns down. Losing everything.
Losing a baby.
Losing a baby. Like, Source is not nice. Forgiving. Source's job is to get you to where you want to be the fastest, shortest, most realistic way possible. And some of y'all have hard heads that continuously beat yourself against brick walls, going up against your blocks. I want this. going up against a brick wall, and source will literally crack your head open on the brick wall to get the point across. Spiritual people are the same way. Sometimes, for the most part, we try to be very kind and forgiving and very guided in our intentions, but sometimes some of y'all need a slap upside the head and you didn't get that, and we need to give it to you sometimes. That's my 2 cents for the day.
So maybe let that be an invitation to someone who does consider themselves a person of God, that yes, there are moral and ethical ways to live, but give yourself permission to be perceived as bad.
Cat at the door, I think.
A little bit.
Sure, I think that's a cat. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna take that as a sign that that message was extra important. It's okay to upset people. I find there are often common lessons that standing in your truth will bring. And some of those lessons happen to be that it'll go to one of two ways. One of them is they're like, wow, yeah, you're right. I agree. That was difficult to hear, but it lands in the place that it should.
Right.
The other path that could happen is someone's not in a space to even accept that reality, and they're going to push you away. They're going to be upset with you, and that could lead to a distance in relationship with that person. And that's life. Sometimes that's one of those points where the universe isn't being as gentle or coddling, because it can feel very lonely if you said what you had to say, knew in your heart it needed to be said, and then you're left alone. Often people are feeling alone. And just know that you still needed to honor what was within to express it, because where you're going next, now that you're living in a reality that let that word be spoken, is going to bring you and elevate you to a new group of people that you will find. It may take time, but I promise you, through the tears of, why am I alone? You will find your people, and it will be far better than anything you've had thus far.
And sometimes the universe is protecting you from things that you don't know or don't see. There's a relationship in my life that's coming in and out and coming in and out. And in one of my coaching sessions with someone, I actually got an intuitive message about sometimes people are being taken out of your life, or you can't seem to get that relationship that you want with that person because the universe is actually protecting you from having that person in your life. And that, as that intuitive message came out, I was like, slap. Oh, okay. Oh, that makes sense now, right? So there's oftentimes, don't mistake the universe being protective of you and put in that the universe is soft and gentle and kind, because we love the universe. I love the universe. I love source. And it is, and as I'm saying that, I get the message that there is pure love back, and there's a chuckle behind it, because they know and give permission for me to say that about them, because it is the truth. They're not here to be your parents. They're here. They're.
It's not good, bad. It's indifferent. It just is.
Yeah.
How someone wants to interpret losing their job can be their own internal game. But at the end of the day, when I think of how the universe plays out, it just is. It was meant to be so that we could bring you to places that you'll only know so long as you keep following and having faith that things do really happen for a reason. And it can be hard, but it's worth it.
It's worth it. So sometimes if you're being called upon, like there is this one person on my posts lately, I'm not sure who you are, and it's fine, because we all have a purpose, but that's where this all came from, because there was one day that I was just writing something, and then they wrote, and it's not a troll per se, but just like, I don't know who you are. And I'm like, why are you, I must be important to you, because I don't even know who you are. And I was saying that to my husband as we're driving for one of our jobs, and I'm just like, whoo, I just want to light this person up because I don't know who they are. What is your intention? Why are my posts bugging you so much? And maybe you need to look at that. If my posts are bugging you, you need to look at that. That's you, that's not me. I'm saying my truth. I'm saying what I got to say. I didn't ask for your permission, and I definitely don't ask you to comment on my posts, in a derogatory way, in like a challenging way. And he says, why don't you speak your truth? And I said, because we have clients. I have clients from my big business. That's my big business right now. That's fading. But it's still, I hold this respect and this space where I remain professional as I can, still saying what I want to say. And I hold that space. And he goes, but that's not you and you're not being authentic. And I said, well, I'm spiritual. I'm supposed to not say that. And he goes, where did you get that from? And then I told him about the conversation from, you know who you are, a few years ago. And he said, well, that was actually wrong. And that was wrong of you to not address it and say, you know what? Spiritual doesn't mean that I can't say what I got to say and say things that people don't want to hear. Spiritual is being awakened to understanding that some people need to be cussed out. Some people, and if we don't give it, the universe will give it. And trust me, you want it from one of us, not the universe, because the universe is unwavering, or whatever I'm trying to say. Sometimes you just need to be put in your place as best that you can.
What I'm thinking of is absolutely hold your values of virtues coming through, of living in alignment, kindness, heart-led. Those are all primary things. When it comes to conflict, when it comes to upsetting somebody or saying something that might be perceived as upsetting, that comes down to something only you would know as your truth. And for me, it's a solar plexus thing. That's where I've learned chakras, that your solar plexus is by your abdomen, the third chakra from the bottom. And it's all about your truth. It's about your identity. It's about comparing yourselves to others sometimes, being manipulated, manipulating people. It's this very powerhouse center of identity, truth, and power. And so only you will know if this is one of those moments where it is so important to your soul to say something, because it could be related to a karma. If you are biting your tongue when it feels so wrong, and you will recognize what that feels like.
Feel it. Yeah.
And if you don't, reach out to us, because that could be something that Thought Amnesia or our program can work on with you.
Right. Can I interject? A lot of times you have the warrior keyboards or whatever. I don't call them that, but there's people that are braver behind the computer, and so be it. And by all means, reflect. I think what I'm hearing you say is take those deep breaths. I had time in between seeing the comments and reflecting, and then wanting to say what I want to say. And I highly suggest that you do still take that time. You don't want to ever emotionally charge right back to someone. And that's a very important part. And that's what my friend was trying to say. And she was right about that. Like I said, the intent, what I said was right. The intent, or how it was come across, was correct. Needed space and time.
Right. Could use some fine-tuning.
Right. And so we want to honor ourselves and have you honor yourself in that taking the deep breaths before you say those things. And oftentimes, even if you can get away with sleeping on it, like taking it over, like responding back the next day, taking that time, and what do they call it? Like sleep on
breather.
It? Yeah, breather, sleep on it. But still hold true, because even the next day I would have still said something. It wouldn't have been the same message, but it was still like,
sitting.
Am I bothering you? Is there something about me that, like, what can I help you with? Why, like, what is bothering you so much about what I have to say? And just having that open communication, instead of just like, the same way that she's responding on my posts, is to be like, okay, I feel something, there's something there. You're bugging me. There's a reason why I'm seeing your posts and seeing your comments, and there's a reason why I'm being charged too. So there's something like around that, about knowing that there's something that's within you that's being bothered by it. So take some time to reflect on that as well.
Can I share something that's been sitting with me, playing out a situation in my mind, and maybe something more articulate will filter through the reason why it's loud in my internal thoughts. I'm hoping something more than just sharing a fun story comes through, and that is one of the most intense. Hmm, that's probably incorrect. One time to a friend, I said something that would have been very hard to hear. And that specific example, I said, "You deserve every bit of sickness you are sitting in."
Mm.
And this friend, I will do this with some deep breaths. I felt very manipulated by, I gave a lot of my power away, constant abandonment. To be succinct, they weren't the best of friends. And what I meant by this statement was I could see so many situations in her life where she was not addressing what was going on. And through constant avoidance and withdraw of living in reality and being real with how you're treating people in your world, how you're treating yourself, your choices, probably failed to recognize just how sick she was making herself with her attitude, her boundaries, her self care. The list goes on with this individual.
The way that she was expressing herself to other people,
Yes,
probably.
and this was a solid decade in the making of saying. This did not come out lightly. And this was the last time I saw that individual or spoke to them. And it's been over 5 years, which was a lot because we had 10 years together. And what's happened since then, my impression for what we let the world know, this individual has only gotten sicker, worse. And like I said, when going back to the two forks in the road, if people are not in a position to recognize truth, that's their thing. And there is nothing we can do. And just like Sandra said, it may be an instance where you're being protected from their energy. And I take a deep breath with that because for this specific relationship, it was a solid 5 years of mourning the relationship with this individual, and it's only very fresh where I'm finally feeling free of that heaviness and sadness of that relationship coming to an end. But when I said you deserve every bit of sickness you are sitting in, that was, you did it to yourself, girl.
I can hear that. I can hear that. I don't feel like you might have been malicious only for a split second but you might have been pushed, the universe might have pushed you in order to be in that anger moment to be able to deliver that message that they needed to hear as well. And that's what I was trying to get at when sometimes it's a slap upside the head because it comes from nowhere and it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to give it as much as it is to receive it, but if you're not in that right state, you can't deliver it either. Like you almost have to be pushed in order to
absolutely
to
and it
get
took a
that
lot
message
of years
across.
I felt pushed for a lot of years. Now that's kind of, let's take some self-responsibility.
100%.
I let myself be pushed for many years. I was weak and insecure and feared abandonment, so I bent over backwards to people please. This might sound familiar to people out there if you recognize this as your own story. Here's what's changed my freaking life. Showing up from the start, authentic, honest, truthful, and full of my heart. Vulnerability, you know? When I am like that from the start, these things don't blow up because I'm addressing it in the moment. There's a different intensity than when someone's been commenting for many posts over many months and you're like, oh!
And they catch you on the wrong day at the wrong time and something comes out.
It just is.
But that I think is the message that is portraying or coming through, is that it's coming out one way or another. You want to make sure that it's coming out to the person that it deserves to be
Yes.
coming out to, because how many times has somebody done something or said something and you're holding it in and you're holding it and holding it, and all of a sudden you're a volcano and everybody gets it, and then that causes relationship drama or traumatic
Trickling.
events through everyone. Then everyone gets offended, or oh, I don't know about that person. Like, yeah,
you open up
as
a big can
opposed
of
to
worms.
as opposed to dealing with it at the time. And that's I believe is what the message was. My husband was trying to tell me, is that, but you're not being true to you. You're afraid of what people of a job, like, of but if they knew you as a human and a person, you wouldn't deal with that at all. And it wouldn't be to say something smart, but it would be to call them out anyways, and just calling them out, as opposed to just being rude. I'm not advocating being rude, and I'm definitely not advocating for violence at all. That just came out, and I was saying that it does erupt into that. And if you don't deal with it, it does go beyond, and all of a sudden, now you've got
a hurricane.
Violence. Now people, you trigger, and now you are having someone cut you off, and then that person's speeding up and opening your car door and kicking your teeth in, and because they haven't been able to express themselves or expressed any hurt or things that needed to get off the chest. So that's what this whole message is about, other than just what we were originally saying, which what was it called?
You have every element inside of you: wind, water,
Right.
fire, air, ether. And you are a force of nature, and sometimes nature is beautiful, calm ponds and light breeze and sunshine and warm little fire, and sometimes those elements in the world are
Destructive.
taken over, destructive, just like the fire in your gut can literally destroy you from the inside out. This is all parts of your human experience. Honor that sometimes your wrath may feel or interpreted as harsh, but that doesn't make you less spiritual or close to God.
100%. When you speak your truth, coming from a state of taking in that deep breath before you say it, oftentimes the message can come across much more clear, concise, and everything that you wanted to say to that person, without the anger, the resentment, and the just spitfiring and, oh, you did this, and being the victim, right? Take that time, those deep breaths, sleep on it overnight, respond to it tomorrow, take the breather, but respond to the people that you need to respond to, or it will just pile inside you
And make you
pile
sick.
up, make you sick, make you lose it at the post office because something, and it wasn't their fault. So give that energy to who it needed to get to, and you don't know why and how source is trying to deliver messages, and sometimes you are the post office person delivering the message, the messenger, and maybe you're the fifth person of the day that said that exact thing to that person, and then it was that time that then they got to reflect and then go and change their behavior or something about what they were doing. Because sometimes, yeah, they just don't know what they're doing is, not saying wrong, but out of place or not needed. I mean, there's a lot of comments that come on that they're not even needed. Like, we're not even sure why people say what they have to say on some of our stuff, just because you're not heard. You're not even being heard. No one's even looking at them. Like, the moment that you see a negative message, sometimes people like that stuff, but I know I don't have time for it. So the second that it's negative, I'm not even listening to you. So if you're trying to get a point across, it's not coming, it's not being delivered, I'll tell you that. That's my...
Yeah, I have nothing else to add to this. I think that's great, succinct way. I loved your description of talking about how God, the universe, it's not a gentle roll. There's lots of boom and bang in how our world works. And
but like,
that's okay.
Yeah, and like, even after the forest fires, you see this raging fire, and then but it got rid of all these dead trees and all this deadness, sickness, and now all of a sudden this beautiful forest grows like 5-10 years later out of that. The phoenix, so many things that was mass destruction, and then years later, because of that destruction,
the beauty
comes.
So honor that beauty within you, even if it looks a little ugly. Meow.
Right. Be blessed as always. And always, we are starting our Being You in the Universe course and program, and keep tuning in for that, or reach out to us. And
It's like life coaching, I would say, on steroids. You want to take metaphysical approaches, spiritual approaches, quantum approaches. It's better than life coaching because between the two of us, we're changing your programming, and you're coming out with tools and consistency to work towards being the you that you want to be in this universe. So, bye bye.
bye-bye. Be blessed.